All right, welcome to the Scarlet Faithful Podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman. Coming to you minutes after Rutgers lost to number 12 Penn State 27-6. And let's just start with the offense. You know, I think if you watch this game and you're blaming Gavin Wimsatt as the number one reason why Rutgers lost this game, you're not really paying attention. You know, I don't mean that disrespectfully, but this is not the game to blame Gavin Wimsatt. Has he played overall well enough for Rutgers to beat the top teams they've played? For the top 16 teams in the country and probably the top four. Well, yes, the top four teams in the Big Ten. No, he hasn't. He hasn't played well enough for Rutgers to beat them. But today he was better. You know, he was 10-16. He was 63% completion percentage. His worst pass of the game was his last in that interception under duress. He had completed two big passes right before that under duress. Penn State had, was it 7 tackles for loss in this game? I think was the story. Constant pressure. 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. You know, he obviously had the missed handoff with Monungai. It was a turnover. He got blindsided for the fumble late in the game. But overall, I thought he had commanded the offense. I thought he made some plus throws. I thought, again, Soraka, you know, did not have urgency in building momentum off his when he made plus throws. There wasn't urgency to build off of that and keep him in rhythm. It didn't make sense to me. There's a lack of creativity there. Now in defensive Soraka, you know, does he feel that overall the offense is so limited that they have to keep it so conservative? Maybe. But I don't think this is just, you can't look at it just as a Wimsatt issue. You know, the offensive line really struggled today. Not to slight them. I mean, they played, a lot of guys are banged up. You know, Dunlap was questionable on the injury report. You know, Sutton was banged up for sure. I think he left at the end. You had Felter was banged up. Who knows who else on that line? But, you know, the lack of depth is hurting them. The fact that they were able to establish that starting 5 mid-year and get plus results out of them, I thought, in several games. You know, when you had Holland Pierce at left tackle, you were able to get Felter at left guard. You had Zelinkas at center, supplanting Ireland Brown at the start of the year as a starter. Then you were able to move Dunlap back to right guard, and then Sutton emerging at right tackle. They got some real progress out of that line, and now they're getting banged up, and now you're seeing the lack of depth there. You know, 2 really costly penalties in the first half when they're inside the Penn State 10. And both resulted in field goals because of those penalties. We saw that it was 5 false starts at Iowa. So, you know, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. It was a real struggle. You know, the offensive line has not played well against the Penn State defensive line over the years, and that was the case again today. I thought the defense was really good. I thought they did really well in the trenches, much better than they did the last couple of years against Penn State. The defense got put in some bad spots once again, and I think you saw the depth show up on the defensive defense. Eric Rogers, I thought, played really well and placed a longer beam. You know, he had a couple of big pass breakups, had some good coverage. You know, the defensive line has missed some guys, been banged up as well. They've stepped up, even Tyrone Powell out. You know, Teray's done a pretty good job of shifting into his spot. So the defense, you know, has been really good all year, and they've held up against these top teams. The offense hasn't, but it's not, you know, all the other negativity towards Wimsatt, you know, again, he's not where he needs to be. He's not good enough to beat these teams, but he was not the number one problem today. And, you know, all the groups lack depth. The tight ends lack depth. The wide receivers lack depth. The running backs, you know, they weren't able to generate much of a run game. Wimsatt was the best rusher. He was, you know, on non-sack carries, 57 yards on 14 carries, 4 yards a carry. Brown had a couple runs. Monungai had a couple, but overall the run game is weighed down. Monungai is definitely, you know, playing with some issues. This team has a ton of heart. They have a ton of heart. I thought they, you know, hung longer, honestly, than I expected them to. There's a lot of positives with this team and the way they're playing against the top competition. You know, I mean, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State are all top 12 in the country, and Rutgers had a lead against them, each one of them, at a certain point in the game. So that is progress. If you said at the beginning of the season, that Rutgers would win 6 games, go to a bowl game, have leads against Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and play them all more competitively, you would take that. You would take that. And the way the schedule went, it inflated expectations. Getting to 6-2, people expected more, and that is fair to expect more. But at the same time, you have to be realistic, right? And the 3 losses they just had were to 3 of the top 16 ranked teams in the country, and there were some plus moments in all 3 of those games, and that is progress. It's not the level of progress that everybody wants. It's not a level of progress where they're near the finish line, but it is progress. And to blame it on one guy, it's just not right, And I think that we can have a conversation after the season, what Wimsatt needs to do, how he needs to develop. He needs to take another level for sure. But in this game, I thought he showed you something, and there was a lot going against him. And shout out to Isaiah Washington. He had 5 catches today. I thought he played really well. He had that fumble and he recovered it. That was his second effort play. I just thought that the heart that this team continues to play with, how they continue to battle, it's a really positive sign in the culture of this program and what's been built. It's a disappointing result. Penn State offensively, is not great, but I thought the defense did really well against them. Obviously, they're in flux with a new offensive coordinator. But Rutgers isn't at the level yet where they're going to beat these top teams. They're just not, but they beat all the teams in their schedule they're supposed to beat. Now, next week is huge because Maryland is a winnable game. Now, how much attrition have they suffered with injuries? How banged up are they going to be going into that game? That's a huge question mark at that point. That's the biggest priority or takeaway for me is what is Rutgers' physical state going into the Maryland game? Because they're good enough to win that game. That's a huge test. How Wimsatt does in that game, I think, is a fair judge of where is he really at. He's not good enough to beat these really, really good defenses, these top 10 defenses nationally, but can he go in and beat Maryland? Let's judge him on that. I think that as a whole, this is the game that I think since going 6-2, this is the most winnable game we thought, and this is the most winnable game that gives them an opportunity to get a winning season. They're first in 9 years. They haven't won 6 regular season games in 9 years. So we all hoped that they'd be running at this point. They're walking. You have to, crawl and then walk before running. We all hope that progress would be accelerated after the 6-2 start. I think there's some positive takeaways in all 3 games, just in terms of how, the Iowa game was probably the worst game, right? In terms of the whole season. There really wasn't much to take away in that game. But the Ohio State game, the Penn State game, Michigan, there was all plus things to take away in those losses. They did not end the way we wanted them to. They were not as close as they should have been. There were costly mistakes. But, red zone has been a struggle in all 3, the Ohio State and Penn State in particular. You can't get that close against good teams and not finish. And that's partly on Wimsatt. It's partly on the entire offense and the offensive line and critical penalties. And it's also on the offensive coordinator. Credit to Jay Patel for finishing. He's been super reliable this season, been a huge plus for this team. So overall, I think this team played with a ton of heart today. I think that they're really banged up. I really didn't think it was going to be as close as it was because I think they're really banged up. And I think that this team has laid a lot out there. And we all would have hoped for a better result today and a closer game. And the defense gave them a chance. The offense wasn't able to do it. And that's been the story. The offense isn't good enough. There's not enough talent. There's not enough depth. It's a work in progress. And hopefully Shiraka, is able to learn a lot from this season. And this team is able to take a step forward next year. And there's plenty to talk about in the offseason. And we're still going to have a bowl game out of this. So there's still a very good chance for a winning season. You have Maryland and then you have the bowl game. So I still believe Rutgers is going to get a winning record. I think they're going to, win one of those 2 games. I really think next week is very reliant on how healthy they are. And then you're going to get a month off to get healthy for the bowl game. So that's going to be huge. Those are my overall thoughts. I think that if all those social media warriors that are out there, wanting Wimsatt's head, and saying he's terrible and shouldn't be the starter, I don't think that you're looking at it, in depth enough. I think it's all related in terms of the play calling, the overall depth of the offense, the different position groups. Yes, he's not as accurate as he needs to be. There's some issues he has to get better at. But at the same time, I thought today he laid a lot on the line. He made some really good throws. And, there were a lot of factors that offensively they didn't handle. So that's my rapid reaction. Thanks for listening and watching once again here at the Scarlet